ahead and do a quick test here. So, this is my test.
How's it going?
Hey. Sorry, yeah, we might need to talk just a little bit louder, but other than that, we're good. But hopefully, this will be the last of the microphones. The old things that carried us through 6 episodes.
That's as high as it goes. You're supposed to have something under it.
Right.
There's actually a standing desk. So, you, like, if you have a desk, you put it on top of your desk. You can work on your laptop standing.
Oh, cool.
And then, like, if you want to, you can collapse it, but I'm not going to do it. It's been years. You sure it's good?
Yeah, I think we could just keep it going. Keep it going. We're good. We're good.
Shit, the camera's on.
So, welcome back, guys. This is another episode of Mind and Body. Our host, me, Alex.
Me, John, the bodybuilding vegan.
Today we have a special guest.
I'm Joel. I'm his brother.
Yeah.
So, a little close to home. We're actually literally in their home today.
Yeah.
You guys might have noticed the change of scenery. So, let's see. I think
Today is the day after Christmas.
yes.
Also the day before his birthday. So happy early birthday.
Thank you.
Early birthday.
We already exchanged gifts.
Yeah.
Not for his birthday, but for Christmas. But Alex and I have some gifts for each other.
Yes.
And I have no clue what he got me, and he has no clue what I got him. So
If you mind, may I go first? Because I'm really excited for this one.
I'd go first.
Okay, so just to bring up plot, remember, I would say about 2 months back, it was your first time you told me that you signed up for Bailey's, a new gym, and you walked in the gym with a Trader Joe bag, and you were like,
Yes.
you're like, I didn't have any smaller bags, so this is what I got, a Trader Joe bag. And I was just looking at you like, it's funny, something I would definitely do, but I thought about it. So, here's a Trader Joe bag. Wrapped it up.
It's a little gym bag.
Gym bag, yes.
Instead of my giant one, because at Bailey's they will not let you bring gym bags in, so I was frustrated and tried to condense into a Trader Joe's bag. It was a paper one actually, so it was ripping.
Right.
This would be perfect, man.
Perfect. So it's not as big, and I'm sure it won't, but at least it'll hold
I can't fit
your
bodies
grips.
in here,
Yeah.
but I can fit what I need for one workout.
Yes.
Highly recommend, if you're watching or listening and don't have like a little, I don't know, 1.5 by 1 foot by 1 foot bag, get one of those not just for the gym, but for your car. Put an extra pair of shoes, extra shirt, shorts, underwear. You never know, like if you're in Florida, you never know when you're going to shit yourself, when you're going to get rained on, or need like an entire wardrobe. Throw a towel in there, throw some shower slides, like you never know. And that has saved me a lot of times.
Nice.
Because I try to be prepared because I'll forget shit. I'll show up to the gym and like not have shoes, but I got shoes in my bag. And a countless number of friends have been like, do you have extra shorts? Do you have like shoes I could borrow? Do you have whatever? And so I'm like, yeah, let me grab my bag out of the car. So
No, if you go in my car right now, I probably have like 5 different jackets.
there you go.
Bunch of underwear, like just gotta have extra no matter what. So
Look at you, man. Two months ago, you remember something. I was like, shit, I don't remember what I said 2 months ago. Thank you, brother.
But yeah, hopefully it fits all your stuff.
Well, that's perfect.
I'm
for
just
traveling too.
I'm confused why a gym wouldn't let you bring a gym bag in.
Me too.
Honestly, we've been struggling. But,
the story I've been told is it's a lawsuit related thing. Somebody tripped on a gym bag, and I'm like, okay, so let me get this straight. I'm not allowed to bring my gym bag, but I can carry my water bottle, my belt, my knee sleeves, my wraps, my straps, my bands, and a notebook, and just dump it all on the floor. And that's less safe than a bag slightly larger than this. I don't know. But that's them. So yours is wrapped almost as well as mine. Yours was a little more thoughtful at Trader Joe's. This is the bag that your present arrived in. So,
perfect.
Oh, wait, I forgot. Yours is a 2-parter.
Oh.
Yay.
Okay.
So, part 1. Alex and I have a mutual friend. I've known her for a while on Instagram. A special person named Willow, all the way out in New Mexico. Let me double check.
It's very far
New
from
Mexico. And she's an artist. And so, this is a long story. I'm sorry, but I made gratitude classes when I was coming out of a breakup, and I needed to like have something to kind of trick myself into a more positive, like mental focus. And so I was like, if I'm feeling down, I'll just put on these gratitude classes and it'll like change how I feel. kind of like placebo effect, whatever. Just like gratitude, gratefulness. And Alex heard about this, and he's like, well, I usually wear glasses, so I can't wear them, but I'd love to buy a pair and give them to someone who could use them. And he made me cry while I was working out when he called me to tell me that. But when he did this like 2 months ago, it took a while to get this done. This wasn't supposed to be a Christmas present, but it just happened to be that way. I contacted Willow, and I said, hey, like, you're an artist. I have my friend Alex. He's an artist as well, like with his body and with his tattoos. Would you be able to make any type of art for us? And I offered to pay the shipping. She wouldn't let me pay anything, so I'm at least giving her a shout out. Thank you, Willow. But this is what she created. Do you remember when we took
my gosh.
this photo? And I'll let you hold it up.
Oh my gosh, this is amazing.
So Willow's really cool. She does all this stuff by hand, drawings. She's made one for me in the past before too that really helped me when I was like in a really dark spot. It kind of helped me feel good. It's hanging on my wall now. But
this is amazing.
She took this from our photo that we took of us doing the front double biceps. So that's actually like our bodies for inspiration. But she always throws her own twist on it.
I see.
I'm not entirely sure. She's going to have to reach out and tell us what the hands mean. The flowers, where our heads would be.
Oh, right here.
My thought process to that was, even if you're like going through like a shitty time or something like that, like what are flowers growing? They grow in poop. They grow in soil. And then they come out and they're beautiful and they're like good on the other side. And they're also, they're pretty and kind. I don't know. This is what I thought of. But I mean, I think it's
Thank you, Willow. Thank you. I
Open
really
to-
enjoy this. Like, this is going to be on my wall for sure.
Hell yeah.
I really do appreciate it. She's very talented.
Yeah.
Very
It's
talented. I mean,
it's like
look at
almost
the
like
legs.
dot art. Yeah.
Look at my legs. I really hope they look like that in person.
Yeah.
I really do.
That was taken from a real photo. Body dysmorphia. It was taken from a real photo.
I love this. Thank you.
So, she wrote me a really sweet card. I already read
Aw.
that, but I will read you yours from her, and you can take it with you. But it says, her projects are always like art on top of art, like really pretty handwriting on the outside of the card. Art on the outside of the card with his name.
Amazing handwriting.
And it says, Alex, you have worked so hard to be where you are, and I admire that. You have so many great values and interests that make you uniquely you. Hold on to those truest parts of yourself, and everything will fall into place. Smiley face. Sincerely, Willow.
Oh, that's sweet.
Dude.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you. I really appreciate this.
And so for everybody, obviously, if you found us, you probably either directly know us or you have social media. But I've never met Willow in person yet. I'm working on meeting my friends on social media in real life, but we've created this friendship, and now this friendship with you. And I think it's like what you have in your life is what you make it. And
Of course.
you put out so much positivity, people find you. She's putting out positivity. I'm doing my best to put out positivity, and like, this is really cool. This connection, even though
course.
she's across the freaking world.
I mean, I'm definitely shocked. Like, I would have never, thought this would happen. But it just comes to show that, if you're nice, you're kind, and you give out at some point in time, like, people will be kind to you, and it's always a full circle.
Yeah, I never expected somebody to buy my glasses that can't use them and then give them.
Yeah,
to somebody else,
unfortunately,
so.
I'm very blind. Well, I'm not super blind, but the thing is, if I wore them, I would have most likely worn them, and because I can't like avidly see, it's just more for like show, like take pictures and whatnot.
Well, I really thank you for doing that. It like restored my faith in humanity for the moment. All right, Christmas is over. Moving
Yes.
on, we have our guest here. He's been patiently waiting. You know,
You're not from here, right?
I'm from here. I grew up in Florida for 25 years. I lived with John for pretty much all of that. I moved to Newark, New Jersey last September, I think. Is that right? September before last. I don't remember. Something like that.
So it's been
It's
pretty.
been almost 2 years, right?
It's been about a year and a half.
Year and a half.
Yeah.
Okay.
Coming back? Coming back anytime?
No, that's not my goal. I mean, I lived in Gainesville for 25 years, and just like any place, when you've been there that long, I think I've done just about everything there is to do here, and there isn't that much to do, in my opinion, to be honest. I don't have like a gym that I go to, so it was just going to work and then coming home, and I got bored of that.
Understandable.
Yeah.
Basically just looking out for new opportunities.
Yeah, I wanted to go somewhere that actually has reasonable seasons and where 80% of the time there aren't mosquitoes. So, New
You know what?
Jersey.
That's so understandable.
Yeah.
Dude, mosquitoes suck.
Mosquitoes absolutely suck.
Yeah. I moved into an apartment with my best friend of 13, almost 14 years. And we live there together now. So, it's nice.
Perfect.
That's cool. And we'll trace back to that. I think we should do what I did on your podcast.
Okay.
On this actual couch, too. We just don't have a video for it. I asked you 3 words to describe yourself.
Ooh, yes.
So, 3 words you would use to describe yourself, Joel.
Oh.
Yeah, put them on the. We might put you on the spot, but I'm kind of curious what comes to your head first.
Oh, I find that very hard to do without sounding pretentious.
There's a difference between being an asshole and bragging and just being like honest. Like,
Yeah.
Right.
it's taken me a while to learn to like be able to sell myself on Instagram or like as an employee or as a coach. Like, I have to take credit for what I do well.
For sure.
I'm good at writing plans. I'm good at figuring out people's nutrition. I have to be honest about that, otherwise I won't get anywhere. So I think it's okay to be honest without being an asshole.
So
in this case.
the first one that honestly came to mind was creative, because that's something that I try to be. The next one I'll try to make less positive. I'm not gonna say anxious, because I don't think that's quite right, but what's a lighter form of anxiousness? Trying to think of some synonyms, but I guess anxious works. And the third one, oh man, ADHD. It's not a word, but that works. That's
I mean, it spoke to me.
Yeah.
I kind of understand.
I can't think of a better way of putting it. Yeah.
Wow. All right. Well, I'm curious what your anxious one is about. I know about the other 2.
So again, I don't know that anxious is quite the right word. I just can't think of one that's more accurate for it. But I have a strong ability to get into a thought process and then spiral in it, and that's both in a positive term and in a negative term. Like, the negative of it is pretty obvious. Like, anybody who's had anxiety, it's that you're constantly thinking of what's the worst thing that could happen, and like every situation in your head, you just run through it and keep running through it. And that I do get sometimes, but there's also like a positive, I think this relates to the ADHD thing. Positive side of that is I can also just think through basically any scenario and try to figure out every possibility in it. And that's something that I think I'm relatively good at, which is, it can be bad when it's in that negative, like anxiety-riddled side, but if it's something that you care about, it can also be positive, because as John can probably attest to, I can pick up basically any subject and relatively quickly memorize or learn ridiculous amounts about it. Sometimes to my detriment, because I'll often be learning about that while ignoring other things that I should actually be caring about. But it's kind of how it goes.
He's very much like a walking encyclopedia in certain subjects.
Man, wouldn't that be useful if it wasn't for that we lived in the time with the internet, so now you could just look anything up at any time. But
going on walks, it's fun, because then like I get a history lesson or a lesson on bugs or a lesson on politics or something that I didn't know about that I wouldn't research myself.
Ex post de facto justice was the thing we talked about recently.
Oh, yeah. Do you know what that is? I didn't know what that was. So.
I mean, I've heard of it, but
Okay.
like I said, most of the school things are
Yeah.
out the door. They're out the door. I admit.
So
That's
Yeah.
true for me as well. I didn't learn very well in school, like that setting of sitting down and them telling you have to learn about this. I was never good at it, but after getting out of school, that's kind of what I find myself doing with all the things that I actually care about, or the things that just I, for whatever reason, get infatuated with and can't stop thinking about.
It's almost like to learn something about it, you have to almost be curious about
Yeah,
it. Curious enough to want to learn about it.
There's a saying about alcoholics, which is like, I can't have one drink, but I could have the entire bottle, if that makes sense. And that's how I am with information. Like, if there's a subject that I am interested in, I can't just learn a little bit. That's just going to make me angry. I have to keep on learning until I'm tired of it, until I can't learn anything else about it.
Back to the
Ex post de facto
Ex
justice.
post de facto justice.
Yes.
I didn't know what it was, but I there might be somebody listening that wants to know what it is. The people that committed war crimes during World War II, like especially the Nazis, what they did like wasn't illegal in their country. So when the rest of the world got, was it the United Nations?
No,
Or
the
prior
United
to that?
Nations didn't quite exist yet. This was during the Nuremberg trials. What they basically realized was that the Nazis are effectively the worst group of people that have ever lived, and they needed to be punished in some way. The problem was there had never been an international criminal court ever. So they needed to figure out some way to punish these people, but they recognized that legally speaking, they had no footing to do it because there was no law saying you can't be a Nazi in Germany. There was no law saying you can't commit these genocides in Germany or the German-occupied territories. So they had to figure out some legally sound way to do that, and they realized it wasn't possible because what they were going to have to do was create a law and then punish people for breaking that law, even though that law didn't exist when they were doing it. That concept of creating a law and then retroactively punishing people for it is called ex post de facto justice. And it's one of the things that basically every court system across the world agrees you can't do. It's just not right. You can't make it illegal to eat salmon and then convict every person that's ever eaten salmon before that happened, right? But they also agreed that what the Nazis had done was so horrible that they were willing to make the first act of an international criminal court, the first international criminal court ever, be technically illegal. It was an act of ex post de facto justice, which I thought was just fascinating. That the first thing that they ever did as an international criminal court was something that's technically illegal. And yet everybody agrees, and I think they should agree, that it was the right move because the people that they were punishing were Nazis, and it's kind of hard to feel bad about that. That's the kind of thing that, like, when I learn very little bits about, like, the Nuremberg trials, I just get upset if I haven't figured out enough of it that I feel like I understand the full picture. I'm sure I don't, but I feel like I do.
So that's what I learned on our walk yesterday.
Wow. Yeah.
My mind is like,
Yeah.
like I kind of like, I will admit, I don't fully understand.
Basically,
like long story short, like almost like dumb it down.
like
Dumb it down.
if it's illegal tomorrow for you to drive a V8, like,
Right.
let's say that, or I don't know, like, or to, I don't know, to high five your neighbor.
Right.
Would
They
be
can't
like-
go back in time and arrest everybody that did that in the past.
What was it that Anna was drinking last night? What was that stuff? Kratom, right?
Kratom,
however you say it. If they made Kratom illegal today
right now.
and then decided to arrest everybody who had ever had Kratom in the past before it was illegal,
Right.
that would be an act of ex post de facto justice, is what, it's a long fucking phrase, but that's what it means. And that's a thing that every court in the world basically agrees. You can't do that. You shouldn't do that.
In 1940s Germany, it wasn't illegal to kill a Jew. So they went, in the future, they're like, okay, you guys shouldn't have been killing Jews. We're going to punish you for something that wasn't illegal.
I mean, it sounds, that is,
Right.
both of us were oversimplifying it to a super large degree, but the thing that I find fascinating is that was the first time the entire world ever got together to create a court system to punish another nation in a criminal sense. And the first act that the world did in an effort to punish the Nazis was technically break a law that everybody agreed was wrong. They committed ex post de facto justice. The only reason we can say that's fine is because they did it to the Nazis, and you can't be mad when a Nazi gets fucked up, I think is what it comes down to. Is that
Say on that subject, I don't know why this popped up inside my head, but like even the subject of weed, how would you feel about that?
if
Now that it's, I wouldn't say 100% legal, but it's because it's going towards that route.
yeah.
How would you feel for the people that are in jail?
Oh, yeah.
They
What like do they like? How would that?
That's a question that's been discussed in between the states. Like I'm blanking on the state right now. Like there was a state that made marijuana legal, and there was this big question for that state Supreme Court. What are you going to do about the people that are in jail now because they were smoking or selling marijuana? And what they said was basically, well, yeah, at the time it was illegal, so they still broke the law. There have been other states that have gone the other way and offered clemency to people who are, arrested, and a lot of people have had drug charges totally dismissed. And I think that's the right move. I think it's
Right.
stupid to have anybody charged for
If there
any-
wasn't any other charges, of course,
Yeah.
but like something specifically like
Yeah, if it's just buying drugs or using drugs, I don't think there's any reason to ever put somebody in jail for that. It just doesn't make sense. It's your body. If you want to put fucking chemicals into it, do it, If you go out, do drugs, and hurt somebody else, that's a different
Right.
story. But
Yeah.
I feel like you and me, we don't really have smart conversations like this. Or really smart.
Thanks, Alex.
I mean, no. We have good conversations, but no, that was very
Joel's a,
like super
what
smart.
can I say, smart, but like very logical and
I can tell.
information-driven person.
I can tell.
At least that's what I see him. And not that he's not emotional as well, but like usually when him and I get into conversations, it's usually factual based.
I can
Right.
tell you, I can tell you where that came from. I can, and John will probably agree with this. Our dad, when we were growing up, was the guy who would get into what he would call debates, which were actually arguments. And what it would usually be is our dad is 72, okay? So he went to college quite literally 50 years ago. And he would be arguing with us because he's like, well, I have a master's degree in so-and-so. And he has a master's degree in social work and a degree in psychology, I believe. Is that correct? I know he has a master's in social work, but he loves psychology. And if you know anything about psychology, it is the field that advances the fastest. So the shit that you learned 20 years ago about psychology, it's wrong. The shit you learned 10 years ago is probably wrong. That's why most of the major guys in psychology, like, who's the guy that really wanted to fuck his mom? I'm blanking on the name.
Freud?
Yeah, Freud. If you ever reference Freud... Yeah.
Hey, you got one right.
Yeah. If you ever reference Freud in an argument about psychology, you're automatically, like, dismissing yourself as knowing anything, because that guy was just wrong. He was just throwing shit at the fan and seeing what hit. So our dad will try to make an argument with us and be like, well, I learned this in college 50 years ago. It's like, yeah, listen to what you just said. It was 50 years ago. So after getting in so many arguments with him as a teenager, I felt like I just had to, like, equip myself with the knowledge where I could just be like, nope, I know you're wrong. I will verify it. I'll verify it right now. Let's look it up. And then, of course, I would look it up, and it would be like, well, son, you can't listen to everything you read on the internet. It's like, Dad, this is a Harvard paper from this year, please, kind of thing. But I think that's where it came from. I felt dismissed a lot by my dad, and it infuriated me because I was like, I just learned this today. I just got this information, and you're trying to recall something from 50 years ago.
Dude, this puts me back like 10 years ago, just listening to you guys argue every single night. It was like, well, here we go again. Gonna argue about something. But yeah, no, our conversations are good, Alex. I think ours have been more from the heart.
More from the heart
than from the brain. Like,
Yeah.
we're both pretty emotional people.
Yeah.
Not that we're not also smart, but we're not quite like walking encyclopedias.
For sure.
But we could use that as a transition into like the next step that you had brought up off camera. Speaking of the heart, you are in New Jersey.
Yes.
You're currently in a relationship. Your other half is in Gainesville, so in Florida.
Yeah.
How far apart is that? Like 1,000 miles?
I don't remember exactly, but it's something close to that.
I drove it, so it's almost 1,000 miles.
Yeah.
We're in
it's like a
Florida
good
now.
It's a
New Jersey
15-hour
is
drive.
up here somewhere.
Yeah. So how long have y'all been together?
Shit.
Oh shit! But
So it's been
Now it's been, I think, for going on 5 years. We had a little break for like 6 months, 2 or 3. God,
it was a while ago.
it's just to put part of the reason why my brain is not able to recall this correctly is 2 of the past however many years that we've been together were during quarantine and COVID, and that all kind of blends together. So it makes it harder to know, but I believe it's been about 5 years. Yeah, And
Side story, what is interesting to me is she is best friends with your current roommate, who is also your best friend, right?
Yes. All right. So my current roommate is my best friend of the past 14 years. We met doing gymnastics together, and he is from El Salvador. When he was living here doing gymnastics with me, he introduced me to Grace, my current girlfriend, through whatever FaceTime app there was back then, Skype or something. So I met her when I was like 14, but she was in El Salvador. My best friend moves back to El Salvador for high school, and then moved back here for college. I hung out with him multiple times throughout college, and then at one point he invited me to go back to El Salvador with him to just see what El Salvador is like. So I went there, and one of the first people he introduced me to in person was Grace, my current girlfriend. And basically immediately after I get back to Gainesville, maybe a month or two later, I got a text from Grace. She was like, "Hey, guess where I'm moving? To Gainesville, Florida." Yeah. So now I live in New Jersey with my roommate slash best friend, the guy who introduced me to Grace, and is a good friend of Grace as well. I know that's a confusing, convoluted story. It's a little confusing for me too. There's a lot in it.
So what? Almost 5 years. You guys have known each other for a while. I know both of you. Obviously, I know both of you. What do you guys do to make it work? How do you make long distance work?
I mean, how does long distance work?
Because you said it's been two years since going up there.
About a year and a half. The hardest aspect of it is, I think, the hardest aspect of any relationship, which is communication, which, I mean, that can be difficult face-to-face, person-to-person, but when there's 1,000 miles between you, it's difficult even more. So one of the things that we try to do is speak every day as often as we can. So I try to call her. I have a 45-ish to an hour commute to work there and back every day. So I try to call her and talk for 15 minutes or so, sometimes more on the way there, then the same thing on the way back. And then we have a really good system of every night we eat dinner together over FaceTime or whatever and watch a TV show.
That's romantic.
So, yeah, it is. And the problem that you run into is we've done this so many nights in a row that we're running out of TV shows. Like, we've watched, I swear to God, almost everything on fucking Netflix and Hulu. And, like, we're just slowly, like, we're out. There's nothing left. Like, we watched every episode of Bob's Burgers, Abbott Elementary, Rick and Morty, and everything else. And we were just like, I don't know what to do now. What do you want to watch? So we just clicked a random thing on Netflix, Midnight Mass, which he's watched apparently. That's what we're running through now.
Yeah.
So if you have suggestions of stuff to watch, please let me know. I need it.
I do have a couple questions for you.
Go for it.
I've never experienced a long distance relationship. So I guess my first question would be, between the 2 years, so for 2 years now, y'all have been in the long distance, but prior to that, y'all have been like this, right?
Yeah.
Well, like seeing each other every day, like person to person.
Yes, so I lived with her for the better part of 6 months, and then we broke up for a little bit. This was after I had my ACL reconstruction and a bunch of stuff going into that. Then we got back together, and she would spend basically every night actually here in this house with me. So, yeah.
Would you think that, because for me, I'm a physical type of person. Like, I need to be there, touch, just be there in general. So if you guys didn't know each other prior, and I guess you would say, like, maybe, let's say y'all dated each other for, like, a couple months or whatnot, and then long distance, you think, like, what holds y'all together?
I think part of it is that whole backstory of the fact that we have a lot that, like, my best friend is probably one of her best friends as well. We spent a good amount of time together when we were here in person, and that helped us know who the other person was. And we've both gone through a lot of similar things.
Right.
For example, currently she is helping to care for her grandmother who has dementia. John and I have physically lost 2, but functionally lost 3 of our grandparents to dementia as well. What I mean by that is 2 of our grandparents died of dementia. One of them is at the point where she doesn't know either of us are. So that's something we've both been through, and that's something I can relate with her on, if that makes sense. We have a lot of those things where we're just able to relate, and also we have a similar sense of humor, and we're,
Right.
We
So
get along.
It's
well.
almost like way more like you guys just appreciate each other for who you guys are.
Yeah.
In a way, and I almost want to say like because you guys don't see each other on a day-to-day basis, it's almost like you appreciate each other more in a way.
Yeah.
Like as a person,
Yes, and I mean, not that what you just said was incorrect in any way. We do see each other through FaceTime, which is not the same because you're not able to have that physical interaction, but it is still very important being able to actually see that person. If this was 15 years ago, 20 years ago, I don't think we could have made this work with phone calls. Like I needed to be able to see her. But on top of that, like we have habits that we've gotten into that just are like ways of showing affection, even if we can't like physically do that. Like just silly little jokey things that I'm trying to think. Okay, really stupid one, but one that we've been doing for a while. Before we start watching something or call the other person to like start our FaceTime thing, I would pretty much always say like, all right, ready spaghetti? Just that like, and that's like, are you ready to go?
It's like y'all's thing.
And well, not just that. And then after a while, she started replying, okay, spaghetti. So stupid. There's no value in it except for to me and her. That's just a way of like, nobody else is typing ready spaghetti and she's not responding okay spaghetti to anybody else, to the best of my knowledge.
But that's your
But I
thing.
don't think it's happening.
That's your
Yeah.
thing.
And that's a way of just showing like, I am, this is me, this is you. Yeah, affection.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's cute. I have a photo on my phone from like 5 years ago of you guys like sprawled out on a beanbag, either playing Halo or watching TV, but like just laughing. And like I don't think that at that point you were together like officially. You were like maybe in that like figuring yourselves out phase.
Mm-hmm.
But like, yeah. So
I'd like to see that. I want
I'll have to find it.
to. There was a time where I tried to teach her how to play Halo, and it didn't work, but it was fun.
Yeah.
Do we want to... This is totally not scripted, so screw it. We'll just throw it in there. But, hey, if y'all want to support the podcast, we have some sponsors that we can shout out real quick. Athlicity.co, weighttrain.com. Those are 2 companies that I own. But Alex has a code
Alex.
So
Super easy.
If you guys want any like clothing or fitness apparel or anything like that, I'll make this quick. Just use his code when you check out. It'll get him paid for his affiliate status. It'll help me out. Alex is also sponsored by NoCow, so if you guys are looking for some dairy-free, gluten-free protein bars, just use code Alex at nocow.com. That'd help us just because he's putting in money to get like mics and equipment. So if anybody wants to show some support, you could do that. If you're totally broke and you can't do that, just give us a review. Share this with one of your friends. It'll help us grow and help us find more people. So just throwing that in there.
If you want to help me out, I have a Cash App. It's Joel from GNV. It doesn't help them out at all, but I like having money, and I'd appreciate it.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Thanks.
There's nothing
Never had
wrong
a
with
guest
that.
come on here and try to promote
Like,
themselves.
okay.
I'm
And
not selling anything either. It's
I
just-
actually
I'll
know
take
that I know that's a real Cash App handle because that's what I use to send him money because we share an Amazon account, and I hadn't seen Elf in like a decade.
Right.
And the other night I asked Elisha what she wanted to watch, and she's like, "Let's watch Elf." So I'm
Such
like,
a
"Hold up, I
classic.
got a Cash App Joel from GNV $4 so we can watch it."
$4.
Yeah.
We got to do that. We were literally
What
just
is
talking about Elf too.
Have you seen it?
Oh, thousands of
Oh,
times.
okay.
Thousands of times. But it's like, of course, like when Christmas times go, you have to. Like, there's just some of them.
I think I've only seen that movie one time.
Really?
It's
With
with I've seen it like on. It's been playing in the background a few times, but I've only sat down and actually watched it once. I think.
Yeah.
It's funny though.
Good movie. You guys have mentioned. I'll just keep this rolling if that's cool. Unless you
Yeah,
guys-
of course.
You guys were talking while I was in the fridge. Alex asked if anything was off limits, and Joel basically said no. And then Alex asked about, I believe, depression.
Yes.
that was a topic that you,
Mm.
because we are the mind and body podcast. It's not
Yes.
just like bodybuilding. It's like physical and mental health. So
Of course.
anything you'd like to drop in on that subject with?
Oh, you just want me to jump in?
Just throw you on the
Jump
spot?
in, I
Yeah,
mean,
okay, I guess.
We try to.
So, all right, well, in the three words to describe me, the word that I picked that's not actually a word is ADHD, which I was diagnosed with as a kid. ADHD is known as dyslexia and dysgraphia. And
People might not know what dysgraphia is.
yeah, so dysgraphia is, at least in my case, dyslexia is when you're reading and the numbers and letters get flipped around, right? You often spell things incorrectly. And for me, it wasn't spelling, it was reading, especially when I was younger. Dysgraphia is a motor skills issue in your hands where it's really difficult to form letters properly. I went to physical therapy for it for a number of years and didn't do anything. My handwriting is still atrocious. I'm so glad typing is a thing. But when you put those two things together, seeing letters and numbers and they're backwards, and then you can't write them down.
No.
There was more than one time when I was in elementary school where I would write an entire paragraph or whatever, take it to the teacher, and the teacher would be like, "Can you read this to me?" And I would look back at it and say, "No, I cannot. I have no idea what that
man.
says." Like, there was a spelling test, and this is one of the more sad things that I remember. There was a spelling test that I took, and I don't remember how I felt about the spelling test, if I thought I had done well or not, but I was pretty good at it, so I doubt I was doing poorly. But I finished the entire test, walked it up, handed it to the teacher, and in front of me, the teacher crumpled it up and threw it in the trash. She didn't even say, like, "Can you help try to read that?" Just threw it away.
That's mean.
Yeah.
What?
That's super mean.
Yeah.
How old were you?
This was second grade. It was Miss Book from,
No way.
yeah.
I remember that name. I don't know if I ever had her.
Yeah, it was.
What a bitch!
Right?
Why?
That
That's
was
not something you do.
And it's one of those things where, as a kid, it didn't affect me, like, because I didn't have the maturity to, like, think about what that is saying. I was just like, I guess you couldn't read it, just like all the other times. But looking back on it, it's one of those things where I'm like, damn, that was a shitty thing to do to a kid.
What the? My
Yeah,
mouth is
right.
just like hung open right now. I didn't know that, man.
But again, as a kid, it didn't affect me because I didn't know what that was, and I didn't know what I was supposed to feel. So, like, that's not to try and put any aspect of, like, oh, that's traumatized me, like, or anything like that. It's just that's how bad my handwriting was and how shitty that teacher was. But and then you pair that with ADHD, which for me wasn't so much it wasn't that I was super hyperactive most of the time. It was much more just a attention deficit problem. But there's an opposite side to that a lot of people don't know about ADHD, which is you often have a lot of trouble keeping attention on things that just don't immediately, like, go like, oh my god, that. But the opposite side of it is you get hyper fixated on things. Like, I would find a subject, just something, could be like a certain species of lizard or fire trucks or whatever, and I would get hyper fixated on them, and that's the only thing that I would want to learn about, read about. Every toy that I wanted was that thing, until I got tired of it and I couldn't have those anymore. Like, and I would go through subjects like that, and that's still to a certain extent how I am as an adult. But I went through my childhood totally unmedicated for that, which, and I don't have any real feelings about that. My parents asked me when I was a little kid if I wanted to try medicine, and of course I was like, no, I don't need medicine. I'm a kid. I'm fine, you know? But what I realized with the hindsight of, you know, however many years, is I ended up getting depressed as a teenager because there were a lot of things that I wanted to do or that I thought I should be able to do, and because of that ADHD, I wasn't able to. And I don't mean that in the terms of, like, it sounds like I could be using that as a crutch, but it's kind of true. There were things that I wasn't able to do just because I couldn't keep the focus on them. And that's one of the things about ADHD that people maybe don't realize. They consider it like an illness for kids, or it's not. It is highly over diagnosed. I don't doubt that. But untreated ADHD isn't the problem, it's what it leads to. Like, ADHD is the first step towards depression and towards all these other things.
Why is that? Why is ADHD
I-
step towards depression?
There's been a lot of different studies, and I'm not a psychologist, I'm just talking from like the stuff that I have read, but there's a lot of ties between whatever mental difference there is in a person that has ADHD. It's very similar to a lot of people who have bipolar or even schizophrenia. It's like a much lower on the table form of that. And when it's left untreated, I would say that my experience probably isn't dissimilar from a lot of other people. It's not like I'm having manic episodes and going back and forth, but just the fact that I can't focus on these things that I know I need to do would keep me up at night. I hated going to school because I knew I was going to do poorly at certain things, or I would just have severe anxiety about the fact that I wasn't going to be able to focus on it. So then I would be in bed at night and I wouldn't sleep because I was anxious about going to school in the morning. So then I would wake up sleep deprived and have ADHD. And the thing that sucks is I usually did pretty well still, but it took a lot of effort. So I hated it. I hated the whole thing of going to school, doing all of this. And that's still an issue that I have. Like, I probably should go back to school, but I don't fucking want to because my experience there was terrible. And then, that compounds on itself over and over and over. You end up getting depressed. It's just what happens, So as a teenager, I think I definitely had some pretty severe anxiety and depression, and I ended up being put on, I went through a lot of different medications for anxiety and depression. I was on bupropion, blanking on. Basically all of the SSRIs that you can try, I tried, and they didn't make me feel better. They just made me feel like a zombie, like a white slate. Like I wasn't depressed, but I also couldn't really feel excited. And I remember the day that I decided I wanted to quit doing those was when I was driving home from work when I was 16 or 17, and a car that was in front of me, I don't remember the exact scenario, but it veered off the road for some reason, hit a tree, and it was right in front of me. And I know I should have felt like, oh my God.
You should help, yeah.
Well, not even that, because I was too young to have that.
Type of mentality, yeah.
Well, I guess I wasn't too young, but I should have been like, oh shit, that's scary, or that was something. But I just remember seeing the car go off the road and was just like, yeah, there that is. And it was the same as there was just no change in my mental processing. And it took me a while of thinking about that to realize, that's not healthy either. I may not be depressed, but whatever this isn't better. And so I quit doing the SSRIs, not on my own. I talked to my doctor about it, and she was like, yeah, it's fine. Just stop taking them. What my doctor failed to inform me of is that the medication that I was on at that time was desvenlafaxine, I think is what it's called. I don't remember the brand name, but that's one of the SSRIs that has a black label warning that says, do not stop taking this all at once. It can cause suicidal ideations and much other shit. Because if you stop taking it, you're going to get depressed. And I was borderline suicidal after that. I got through that period, but I was definitely drinking and doing drugs at the time. And at one point I got Xanax and Tramadol, I think is what it was. And if you've done Xanax before?
I've had my fair share, yeah.
Okay. So if you've done Xanax, what you'll know about it is the first thing it kind of does is it makes you feel like, not even I don't give a shit, it just makes you feel like everything is fine. No need to worry about anything. And I made the mistake of taking Xanax, which also makes you forget. You can end up taking a lot of Xanax at one time because you're like, I don't remember if I took another one. And I probably took 2 or 3 Xanax. And then I decided, I still don't feel amazing. Let me take some Tramadol. But I took the Tramadol as well, which, PSA, you do not ever want to mix benzodiazepines and opiates. That kills people all the fucking time. And I did that, and I just started feeling very wrong. And I went to my mom and was like, I think we need to go to the hospital because I took these drugs, and yeah, I needed to go to the hospital. I overdosed.
if I can recount what I heard from the story, this may or may not be true. You had pretty much fallen asleep in your room, and mom just happened to go in and check on you.
No, that's not true. I took them, and I actually took them and then went to take a bath, and it was when I was in the bath that something just started feeling off. I didn't feel tired. I had that, if you've ever had a panic attack, it's that sensation of just like, something is very wrong, you need to get help right now. Like, but I was on Xanax. You're not supposed to have a panic attack on that stuff. So after getting out of the bath, I put some clothes on, I was like, I'll feel better. It's fine. I didn't start feeling better, and I noticed my breathing was getting more and more shallow. So I went to my mom, who was talking with my sister about something, and brought her into my room, and I was like, Mom, we need to go to the doctor. I took these drugs. Which, that was probably the worst moment of it for me. It was just literally telling my mom, like, hey, I took this stuff because, that sucks to do that to your parent. But what I'll say about my mom is she's a fucking pro. Like, she can be emotional and she can do these things, but whenever she's in a situation where she's like, she knows she has to do something, I can't think of any other person that I would want to ask, because she is a fucking professional in every way. She's just like, okay, all right, we'll do it. We're gonna, okay. And I remember she was like, I think we should go to whatever the hospital is closest to us. And she was like, nope, let's go to the Knappau place. It's right here. We'll see what they say. And if we need to go somewhere else, then we'll go there. I need you to write down the drugs that you took, because you might fall asleep, and I need to be able to show them what you took. I didn't pass out at any point. But my mom took me to the little hospital clinic place, and when we get there, I'm still awake, I'm still fully conscious. The guy, doctor, paramedic, whatever it was, asked me what I was taking, and I was not trying to kill myself. I want to make that clear right now. But when I told him everything that I took, he didn't believe me. He was genuinely just like, I don't believe you would take all of that and not be trying to hurt yourself. And looking back on it, I don't blame the guy. I blame myself, and I blame Xanax for being a bitch. Don't fucking do Xanax. It's not a good idea. Don't do any of these drugs. It's a bad idea. But so what they did is they Baker Acted me, which in Florida, a Baker Act is when they essentially say you are not of sound enough mind to make your own medical decisions, and they put you in a medical facility, a psychiatric care facility. So they did that for initially 24 hours, and then afterwards they extended it again for reason I don't understand why they extended it the second time, to be honest with you. But yeah, they put me in a psychiatric care facility, and that was a pretty big wake-up call, because I hadn't ever fucked up that badly with any kind of drugs. And suddenly I was sitting in a room with people who have been doing heroin or crack cocaine for 40 years, and people who are on, I remember a woman was sitting there listing the medications that she's taking to keep herself well, and she went through like 7 different medications, and the doctor who's sitting there listening is just like, you're on too much. I'm taking you off like 6 of these. And she's like, well, the other 4 doctors that I spoke to started adding more. Like, those are the people that I'm sitting in the room with. And the games that they have us play is like, pop the balloon in the air. So I'm popping a balloon in the air, trying to stop it from hitting the ground, passing it over to a guy who has no teeth because he's been doing meth for 40 years, and he's passing it over to an alcoholic who killed somebody because he was drunk driving, in a circle like that. And then I'm sitting there like, I think I fucked up, guys. I think this is not a great situation for me. So after that, after getting out of that facility, my mom was basically like, I think you need to go into therapy. At that point, I had no, I was like, yeah, you might be right. I went into therapy, and that was helpful, but honestly, it wasn't. It was good, and it helped me reorganize my ways of thinking, but I was still depressed. And what it kind of took was, I don't really remember. I think what it was is I was talking to a friend of mine who also has ADHD, and he was like, well, I've been going to this guy at this psychiatrist for a while, and he's really good, and he found some medications that helped me. And I was like, fuck, I have ADHD too. I should just try that and see what happens. And basically immediately after going to that psychiatrist, he had me take an ADHD test and was like, I don't typically prescribe drugs for patients on their first day here, but I don't frankly feel comfortable letting you drive home. Just that's how bad my ADHD was. It was like, you need to be on something immediately. And what I realized is kind of what I was just telling you. I wasn't depressed because I was just outright depressed. It was because the ADHD was stopping me from being able to functionally do a lot of the things that I wanted to do. And when I finally was medicated and found medication that worked for the ADHD, I suddenly wasn't anxious anymore either, because I felt like I can get up and do what I want to do. I wasn't anxious about going to work because I felt like I understand what I'm doing there, and I don't need to keep myself up at night worrying because it'll be fine. And even if it isn't perfect, I can fix it, you know? And after that, I suddenly wasn't, clinically depressed anymore. Still have bad days like everybody does, but that's kind of what I mean by when ADHD is talked down about as like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. It's like, yeah, but it can become a really big deal. The ADHD led to depression. I would honestly say it kind of, along with just bad choices on my own part, it led to me getting Baker acted. And I didn't really start feeling good. I definitely wouldn't have been able to move to New Jersey on my own. Definitely wouldn't have felt comfortable applying for a decent job there if I wasn't medicated in a way that made me feel like a functional human being. So, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's
Good is the enemy of great is a quote that I've heard.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like even okay is the enemy of great. Like, as much as I wish you didn't go through that, had you not been Baker acted, not ended up in that room of people,
Yeah.
you might never have taken the steps to allow yourself to be great, you know?
Yeah, well, and it's not like, I wouldn't say great is the right word, but I'm taking steps, and that's kind of what it comes down to. When I was unmedicated, I didn't feel like I could take any steps, and now I'm taking steps. I don't know exactly where I'm going, but I'm not in the same place, and that's
moving
really
forward.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That was the reason. That was kind of the mantra of when I was in therapy before being medicated. It was basically me constantly, in some way or another, saying, I feel stuck. Both literally, I feel stuck here in Florida, and mentally, I feel stuck. Like I can't go anywhere and do anything. Like
Right.
where I'm at is where I'll be forever, and I don't feel that anymore. I don't know where I'm going, but I'm not stuck, and that's better for me.
So you're definitely a different person than in that time. Like, even just your outlook, like conversations with you are much more positive. Also, quick shout out to mom, because
Yeah.
I don't care who you are as a parent. Like, I've been a step parent in my past. I've watched a lot of kids. Like, you can't stop kids from doing things, even like adult children. Like, you can't control anyone. But if you've done a good enough job as a parent to where your kid can come to you and be like, I think I just overdosed on drugs, can you help me?
Mm-hmm.
That shows you've done a good fucking job as a parent. So
I would probably be dead if I didn't feel comfortable doing that, is the reality.
I have a question.
Yeah.
First off, I'm like sitting here like taking all this information out because I'm just like, I would say, I feel a lot of emotions because it's like I could feel you on this, but even as a teenager, I would say almost I would say a good 80% of teenagers I probably said I have ADHD or have joked around about it, or maybe they're super serious about it. Of course, you've told your story that you've been through, a series of things to get up to the person you are today. For some of our young viewers, or even adult viewers, do you have any advice to them, like if that may be going through the similar things as you? But because I would say, like, even for my story, like I had a very big problem with like bullying, so I pretty much just like fighting everybody, just getting reckless and not really thinking about what's the word? I'm not thinking about the after effect, So like if I'm going into a fight, I'm not thinking about what's happening after.
Right.
So basically, what it took, my breaking point was when I got arrested and went to jail, And then when I'm sitting in jail, after that, you best believe like I'm not fighting anymore.
Probably
You
a
know?
similar situation to me being in the room with the
Exactly. So for some of our young viewers, like, what advice would you give them so they don't have to experience that, but they can be aware, and maybe like if there's any steps for them to do to lead up to, hey, I need help, or
I'm only, for just to make it clear, I'm only 27 and I don't have it figured out, and nobody does. So don't ever expect that to happen. Nobody has it figured out. But with that said, you know yourself better than anybody else does, and if you feel like something isn't right, try to find somebody who can help you make that right. It doesn't usually work doing it on your own, whether it's finding a psychiatrist or a doctor or therapist, or I don't know, even if you're religious, maybe that can help you too, but ask for help is what it comes down to. I can't help you with making that part easier. It's difficult, but ask for help is kind of what it comes down to. The more help you get, the better you're going to do.
it's always easier to not do it alone.
Yeah.
I think that, not doing it alone is in any circumstance, really, no matter what problems you have in life. But overall, you're better now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm comfortable now. I can genuinely say that I do not ever remember being like comfortable as a kid or a teenager, just like as who I am. There was always something that I was scared of going to sleep because I was scared of waking up sleep deprived,
Right.
And I'm not like that anymore. I'm not perfect, and everybody has bad days, but I don't worry about going to sleep anymore. So there's that.
Hey, that's good.
It's a plus. It is. Better is good, I think is what Obama said, and I agree with it.
Well, I appreciate you coming on the air. I've learned so many things about you. I've also, even prior to us meeting in person, I've heard a lot of things about you. And he's said really all good things. So
Yeah, I'll close out before this is done.
okay.
Did you have any more questions for me?
I have no questions, honestly. I have
Anything
no
else
questions.
you want to volunteer? Is there anything that you can think of off the top of your head that I don't know about you? I've known you for 27, almost 28 years.
Oh,
It's now time to spill the beans.
something you don't know about me.
His birthday is tomorrow. By the time you guys hear this, it's going to have been a while in the past.
So, again, if you want to wish him happy birthday,
but yeah, still reach out.
what's something about a cash tag? Cash app tag?
Joel at GNV.
God.
Joel
It's Joel from GNV.
Joel from GNV.
It's funny, you hate Gainesville, but your Cash App tag.
Well, I was in
Joel from
Gainesville.
GNV.
I was in Gainesville when I had it.
It's catchy.
Yeah. To be honest with you, I can't think of anything off the top of my head that you wouldn't at least know something about.
All right, well, we're close.
Yeah.
I live in this world. I don't know. Maybe I look at this differently, but Alex, you mentioned this even in your podcast about how you're the big bro, like how it's your job to look out and like keep that relationship going with your younger sister. And
Yes.
obviously we're in different situations here, but for me, I have always been the big brother, but I haven't always acted it. That's funny. I thought we'd be talking a lot of shit about me from like when we were kids. Luckily, we can save that for another time. But
Another time.
But what's really cool about Joel is he's always, even though maybe he was uncomfortable in his skin when he was younger, he's always been himself. I remember not wanting to tell people that I was vegan because I was afraid of being bullied. But then I got like my little brother, once he became vegan, he would tell anybody. And
Right.
anytime that he felt something was right and somebody like challenged him, like whether that's politics or whatever, like most people, like if they ask you something, you'll just be like, oh yeah, it's whatever. Like you won't challenge them because like you'll just kind of roll over to make it easier for you. But he would always stand up for whatever he believed in. And so like for me,
That's amazing.
being the older brother, not being confident in myself, but seeing him doing it, I was like, shit, if my little brother can do it, maybe I can. And like in a lot of ways, he's younger than me, but I've looked up to him most of my life. When I was younger, I was kind of an asshole. Either an asshole combined with just like a kid that wanted somebody to play with them. And sometimes Joel would be off like learning about bugs and I would just go annoy him until he got angry, and like that was my way of getting attention. But like Yeah, so I've always looked up to him. So thank you for coming on and honestly sharing some useful information here. Like, this is an entertainment podcast, but we try and throw some education out there as well. And I think his last message really of ask for help. Our family didn't get therapy until he went, and our family needed therapy. And then I went through 2 relationships and 2 breakups that I needed therapy from, and I wouldn't have known my therapist if it wasn't for him. So, again, the older brother learning from what the younger brother has taught. So,
Yeah.
thank
I
you.
look up to you too, buddy.
All right. Anything else? That's it?
I think that's it. I think we only have one thing, to wish our audience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you listened? I don't think you've caught on to when we started doing the sign off. But the sign off.
So our sign off is basically it's on his arm. It's just a way to tell the viewers and give them hope and give
It's
them
just a way of life,
positivity.
man.
Yeah,
It's a way of
it's
life.
really just a way of life.
BDE.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We just tell everybody to have the best day ever.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Let's do a
3,
countdown. 3, 2, 1.
Have the best day ever.